Good evening, everyone. This is Nancy Sharma, and today I welcome you all to this webinar of cyber hygiene practice for financial security. We are really fortunate enough as we have Madam K. Indraveni with us as a speaker of this session. She is the Joint Director, CDAC Hyderabad, Ministry of Electronics and IT. She carries with herself 15 years of experience and has achieved expertise in web technologies, web designing, web development, web administration, web security, vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, information security, open source software, and cloud computing. She is a skilled security auditor as well as a tester. She has published research papers in various conferences and delivered TED Talks as well. Been a very keynote speaker in various cybersecurity conferences. She has been actively involved in the development of BOSS GNU/Linux, an Indian version of Linux operating system. She has conducted more than 300 security awareness workshops over the country. We welcome you with warm regards, ma'am, and it's indeed a pleasure to have you with us. And we hope that this session will be enriching for all the people who are attending this webinar today. And we hope that it will be a very interesting and a very interactive as well. So we have a question and answer round at the end where attendees can ask their question if in case they have any. So over to you, ma'am. And let's start with this webinar on cyber hygiene practice for financial security.
Thank you, ma'am. Very good evening to you all. So I will be turning off my video just to save, make sure that the internet bandwidth is okay. So in case of any questions, as said, like either you can interrupt in between or put out all your questions at the end. However, this is, I think it's a 1 hour session where I would be highlighting briefly about the financial security cyber hygiene practices, and then trying to see how it can actually relate with your activities, daily activities. So that is what would be the agenda. So before I start with the financial securities, one thing I want you all to visualize here, that this is what you are seeing is the live cyber threat map. That is every millisecond, rather, we can say that there are people who are looking into our systems. It can be a financial system or it can be a critical other systems or anything. They are continuously targeting our environments to perform various attacks. Could be a malware attack, could be any other bomb phishing attacks or an exploits kind of things. So this picture is a live threat map. There's a portal which tries to show us this visualization, what kind of attacks are happening. So this kind of an environment is what our systems are hosted, our applications are hosted, and the applications which we are using for our day-to-day activities are also been running. So they are all being watched every time, attacked. And that's the reason why today we are all worried and talking or discussing about the hygiene practices, which will help us to face the attacks that are coming over here, or make ourselves immune against these attacks. That is the basic agenda of what we are discussing today. So before I go into financials, the cyber hygiene practices, whatever we can understand on the cyber world, that equally applies to the financials, because today all our financial activities are online. You buy anything, you try to access any content on the systems, you try to download a software. Every activity that we are doing is online, and if there is any financials involved in any of those activities, yes, there is a possibility of attacks. So common issues that we come across in the cyber world are mostly related to the data. A lot of data is running over there. We fill a lot of forms online, even to buy anything, to do online shopping, for a banking system, anything we access, a lot of data is there. So that data can be lost, it can be misused. People can steal the data and sell it out for the malicious actors. And there can be vulnerabilities in the software that we are using on our systems, right? So all of these can be the issues if the issues in the cyber world. So generic culture, what you all must be already aware of. However, my objective is to emphasize on if these are not practiced, what can happen? Just a glimpse, I just put certain examples, a few quick snapshots kind of things. So just to revive upon the culture, basically whenever we are using anything on internet, the moment we turn on our mobiles, the moment you connect your systems to the internet, these are certain things that should always be there in our minds, which makes us to be safe or to use the internet systems safely. One is password changes. The moment you turn on your computer, just think, when did you last change your password of your desktop? When did you last change your email password, which you are using on the same systems? Okay. Whenever you are keying in anything in the systems, uploading any data, ensure or think about the privacy. Is my data secured if I'm uploading this over here? Am I downloading something? Is my downloads, whatever I'm doing, is it securely doing? My device, my mobile device, my laptops, am I taking the backups properly? If not, we need to take the backups. Try to limit as many users as possible. Give access to your systems, your devices, your mobile devices to a very limited users. Okay. And if it is an organization, definitely with all of these hygiene cultures, a cybersecurity framework should be there in the organization to ensure that every employee also equally follows these practices and make sure the organization environment is also protected against the various cyber attacks. Okay. Understand the smartphones, how much data it is having, what all things are happening inside your devices. We should be aware of what is happening over there. And last but not the least, education. We should know ourselves what is happening in the systems and things. Also make others aware, your family members, your friends, your colleagues, your neighbors, wherever there is a possibility, try to spread the hygiene culture in using the devices. Most of the times we ourselves practice many things, but the same thing we miss sharing with the family members. Whereas our spouse is using the same mobile device, but he is not following the practice of verifying whether he is downloading from a genuine site or not, these kind of things. So informing them equally is important because we all share the same devices. We are all belonging to the same cyber world. Our data, if their data is breached, it is equal to you. So spreading the knowledge is most important. So these are the basic cyber hygiene cultures. Now, you may start asking me, what would happen if I do not change my password? It's hardly my desktop password. Why should I change? I'm using it in my home. Why should I change my email password? I doesn't have any sensitive information. Why should I change? Does any hand have such questions? If so, the reason is your password is already there somewhere being hacked out. This snippet, what you're seeing, I don't know if the screen is very clear to you, but it's a screenshot of the publicly available Gmail passwords, publicly available your card details, card numbers, PIN numbers, or anything. So what I'm trying to emphasize over here is there are people who continuously perform different attacks on different systems. Okay, like a Facebook system or a Twitter websites. You might have seen news coming across. Twitter is hijacked, Twitter is hacked, or a Facebook is hacked. Personal information is being lost, kind of things. So when all these things are happening, it means your data which is there on those systems is already hacked. It's outside. And if you are not changing your password regularly, so the information is already available and somebody can misuse it very easily. So frequently changing passwords of every system that you use. This is about the applications. The same applies to the desktops also. If there is a Windows exploit, unfortunately executed on your system, at that moment, your desktop password also might have been leaked out. In spite of doing a formatting, in spite of putting a lot of antivirus later point of time, already hacked password is hacked. So we do not know when our details are compromised earlier. So having a practice of regularly changing your passwords is a good thing, because in case something bad has already happened, which we are not even aware of, it will stop further damage to the personal systems, personal data, and everything. Next, if the system doesn't have anything confidential, why should I change? You have to change because your system can be misused by somebody else to perform critical attacks. Most of the times what attackers does, the threat map what I showed you in the initial slide, those are the attackers who are trying to attack different systems. But from where the attack is happening, the tracing that source from where attack is happening is little challenging for the cyber security experts, because people who attack, they don't attack from their own PCs. They attack from a weaker system. And weaker system is your system where you do not have passwords changed, you do not have your OS updates, you do not have cyber security practices followed while using your computer. So that is in control of the attacker. Attacker will use your system to perform attack. So though your PC doesn't have anything information confidential or secret, still it is your responsibility. The cyber world, you are connected to the internet, you should make sure your system is equally secured so that it won't be misused by somebody else. That is the reason every time it is emphasized that keep changing your password, ensure software updates are there, ensure you follow best practices while using the internet. And whenever we are using passwords, make sure we use the strongest password and use different passwords for different accounts. For email, there should be a different password. For a banking system, it should be a different password. And just for nowadays, even the applications which provide information, they are also asking registrations. So try to maintain different passwords to different things so that if any one of the system is compromised, it should not impact the others. That way we need to maintain the passwords. And to handle so many passwords, the simple tip I can suggest is try to use passphrase. As shown here, think of a sentence which will be easy for you to remember, because and from that sentence you derive the pass code. That will help you to easily memorize multiple passwords without forgetting. What you need to remember is finally the shortcuts that you are used to you. And the sentence will help you to easily memorize the passwords. That is the best way to put multiple different passwords for different accounts and still ensure you remember. Do not write down anywhere. And wherever the system is giving you a provision, try to enable the multi-factor authentications, OTP based, additional screen lock password kind of things. All of these are now coming out with various applications are supporting. Make sure you follow all of them. Lastly, most important, do not share your password with anybody. So anybody includes the family members, includes saying something out over the phone calls. Somebody comes, your family member is coming and asking you, I'm going to withdraw money. What is the password of the PIN? What is the PIN number of the card? If you're telling it loudly, there's a neighbor who can be listening. There may be something running in your mobile device unknowingly which can listen out. So do not say loudly any of the passwords to anybody. Do not share it. If at all required, you have to use a different methodology to share the passwords in a secure way. That's the first and foremost cyber practice that one has to follow. Then make sure you always protect yourself against these attacks. That is the dumpster diving, brute force, dictionary, or shoulder surfing. These are the attacks to steal your passwords. Assume you have thrown out certain papers, which are mostly policy related papers, or your Xerox and left out files of your education or your organization, your resume kind of things. All of these documents, if thrown out in the bins without properly shredding them, these informations can be used to guess the password that you use. Most of the times people try to go for date of birth, location, city births, these kind of words, whatever places they visited. All of those values will be used for guessing out the passwords. So picking up the data from the dustbins and then doing a social engineering on your passwords is one kind of an activity that is done by some people regularly. Their job is only to collect papers from the bin. He passes on to somebody else. That guy sits and tries to bring out information from that documents and understand what can be your passwords. So brute force, dictionary are kind of attacks which are easy to understand. Someone says, I love Mysore. So my password is directly Mysore. Which year I traveled, assume 2020. Mysore 2020 is the password, people use it. It's very easy to guess. It's very easy to automatically guess using tools also. So these kind of things we need to be aware of and make sure passwords are very secure, because that's the most important when you're dealing with anything over internet, especially with the financials. The banking systems, if you come in, they all force you to change your passwords regularly and all. So why? Because the reason is this: every time ensure you protect your privacy. So these are all the regular tips. However, with respect to financial security, if I map it, whenever you're using public Wi-Fi's, prefer using a virtual private networks so that your communication is going in a secured way. Avoid doing any kind of a financial activities while using a public Wi-Fi, because public Wi-Fi's security strength would be very less, which can easily lead into attacking the financial activities. For example, you're accessing a online banking system. Ensure that the banking system or any of the application is trying to follow, is using the secured HTTPS, something that you see on the URLs. You have to see, make sure that there is a padlock that is available, and verify the certificate if at all possible. In case the certificate is not valid, generally browser itself highlights that this in a red bar, you will see in the top that this is not a secure system. So if that kind of an environment you see, immediately stop entering any credentials and then choose the right website. So anytime you do a financial transaction, either during the shopping or directly utilizing the internet banking facilities or any others, ensure the URL is having HTTPS, because that will try to protect you from various attacks. As you see here, HTTP is a way where credentials can be visible in plain text during the transit. When it is HTTPS, during the transit, the credentials are secure. So a person sitting in between, for example, your home Wi-Fi is compromised. So the person is sitting at your home Wi-Fi and trying to monitor your traffic. For that guy, the credentials may not be visible because you're using a HTTPS domain. But if it is a non-HTTPS domain, your Wi-Fi compromise will lead to access any of your financial activities if you're not preferring a HTTPS-based domains. So, and for public Wi-Fi, I have just now highlighted using Wi-Fi, ensure HTTPS and all. I'll just move towards ensuring apps, proper apps and its software should be there in your mobile devices, because they are the most critical. Nowadays, all the financial activities are on the mobile devices. UPI transactions and MPIN is entered. Then there is a transaction you do with the cards, there's a OTP coming in. So how many of you are aware whether how much of your device, how many of the apps that are there in your mobile device can read your messages? Just imagine if there is an app which can read a message in your mobile device, what can happen? You're doing an online transaction. There's an OTP pushed on the SMS. At the same time, the app, malicious app that is there in your device is also knowing that there is an SMS with OTP. It can also read the OTP. Before you do the actual transaction, the app may perform the actual transactions. So we need to make sure that we are aware of what softwares are there in our systems, what permissions are there in the mobile devices. Probably the later slides has those tips. However, you have to make sure that you delete the apps which are no longer in use. Ensure you download everything from a reputed websites, reputed solutions. So that's about the social engineering attacks, which is equally important for financials. With respect to the activities that we do on the online shopping, financial activities and all, phishing, spear phishing, whaling kind of attacks are most common. People are sending phishing website links. Phishing website, something, it will look something like this. The email looks to be genuine. When you click on the links, it takes us to the genuine website, and you try to start filling up all the details, and you land up into a page where you see either your credentials are hacked. Because whatever we are seeing seems to be genuine, but they are not genuine. That is what is a phishing. For example, you see this mail is about the delivery mail, which is coming from the DHL cargo. But if you notice the email address, the name is DHL Express Cargo, but the email address is info@schaef.com. It's no relation with any cargo delivery. So we need to see not only the content, you have to first understand from where the email has come. And when you're seeing the email, do not just believe the name. Also make sure you look into the email address that is behind the name. If I'm trying to access that particular email from a system which is secured in the sense it is having an OS updated, patches and all being done. From that PC, when I access that email, my system itself is giving me an alarm that there is something fishy in this. There is a hidden Trojan in that particular mail. Do not open it. But if I'm accessing the same mail from an insecure system, I'm able to see the content like this. So it's very important that we use secured environments, because before we try to identify and tell, the system itself helps us in identifying the malicious contents and stops us. That is the importance of having an updated sites. These are certain more examples of phishing websites where you see they're all, the URLs are all not original tax websites. They're all different phished websites. These were old PNB bank, Indian things, income tax websites. Most of the times phishing websites have links like this, which URLs look to be like original, but they're actually not original. The names and all will be different with matching with the same web. And phishing and smishing is one of the major attacks that come in where it is purely about the phone calls, text messages. Nowadays, there are so many text messages talking about offers, bank loans are being given. People call saying, I'm calling from ICICI customer care. I wanted to give you a free, what we should say, credit card, these kind of things. Whenever we receive such calls, what we need to do is firstly, disconnect the call and try to, if you're really interested, contact the real bank and try to see whether that information or that call what you received is genuine or not. Otherwise, the phishing and smishing attacks lead to a lot of various problems. Then moving towards the other major attack, which is known to end user, which is affecting the end users, is tab napping. Tab napping is an attack which is occurring majorly on the browsers where multiple tabs are there. We run and access multiple websites. For example, you see this snapshot. This is a browser, a Firefox browser with multiple tabs available. Running one site, I have a shopping site, epay.web.com. Then there are other websites where news reading site and other banking websites and all are available in the other tabs. When I am accessing this ebay.com and accessing other websites, at some point of time, I may go to the other site and start reading my news. Where in this previous slide, if you see my first tab is having a shopping site. And leaving that tab, I'm just coming to the other slide and reading a news over here. In a fraction of seconds, if you notice the first tab, you can see instead of epay.com, you will be seeing something is connecting. So some process is happening in that particular browser. Without noticing this or without noticing anything, if you go back to the first tab, you will see a Gmail login page. Generally, human tendency is when we are working on multiple tabs, we usually do not remember which tab we opened what. So as soon as we generally come to this page, we see, consider that this is a Gmail page which I have opened, but I haven't logged in. So immediately I start entering my credentials. But what we do not notice is the malicious URL, which is actually a phishing URL. The epay.com has been redirected to malicious phishing Gmail website because the tab is left idle for some time. People take the advantage of redirecting an ideally left tab to malicious site with the point of people not remembering which tab is opened with what. This helps people to take a control of a browser's tab which is left idle. That is why it is called as a tab napping. And the moment we start entering credentials over here, it is being hacked into by this malicious website. So these are all various means of people performing different attacks. So further moving towards one last point about malicious attachments. This is again most important. If you are using your computers, your mobile devices for various important activities, you should make sure that your systems are protected against malwares, right? So one key entry point for a malware to enter into your system is attachments, email attachments, or the files that come through the chat boxes. And the external drives, whenever you insert, there may be a malware affecting in that particular drive. So how do we protect our systems from them? Most of the times we need to have an antivirus which will definitely stop us. However, it's also important for us to have certain secure practices in the system to know whether a particular system is having any malicious files or not. For example, this particular screenshot what you're seeing is actually some audio files are there. They're having also a double extension. Double extension is in a different language over here. We need to make sure that you always have, just open up your file browser in your systems and see how many of you can see the file extension. You may be just seeing the file names and you try to identify it is a PDF or it is an audio file, it is a doc file by seeing the icon that is there over here. But none of you may be visible, we will seeing this extension that is there on the systems, what file it is. But that can actually lead us to problems because By seeing the icon may be interpreted by the system differently, but the actual file that is there may be different one. So you can enable your system to show the file extensions by going into your file explorer options and uncheck this particular thing, uncheck it. By default, it would be checked, hide extensions for known file types. You have to uncheck it so that you always see visibly what is the file extension. It is a doc file, or it is having a double extension, or it is having any special characters into the file name. Those kind of things will be visible to you only if you have this setting turned off. Otherwise, the system can have sensitive files, and the same system may be having malicious files, which can be affecting the sensitive files and hacked out by the people. So these are all the cyber hygiene practices which, if followed well, will try to protect you from doing the actual financial transactions. And there are so many hoax emails which I was referring, right? Phishing, smishing. So these are all smishing kind of things where through messages they send a lot of unnecessary information leading to various phishing websites. Now moving towards your smartphones, where we do a lot of online transactions, and you see the statistics, India is the second largest after China in using the mobile devices and by different age groups. So we are so much related or dependent on the mobiles, and we are all spending so much of time, 90% of the time on the mobiles, where we are browsing for social media sites, entertainments, gaming, and most other things. So what we need to know about mobile devices and why should we worry about? Because the smartphones have our credentials. Does your device ask you the Facebook password every time you access Facebook? The answer is no. Whenever you access your Gmail, it doesn't prompt for a password. Whenever you access your other applications in the systems, they don't prompt for a password, because the device is storing those credentials in some manner. Does the same device have the banking apps? Answer is yes. And are we carrying out the UPI wallet kind of transactions? Answer is yes. Does the same device has messages? Answer is yes. And the same device has the photographs and videos. So much of the information and data is there. We are doing a lot of activities on the smartphones. So our complete personal sensitive information is carried out on the smartphones. And the most critical features of your mobile device are these. Now, when I said your device has so many important critical things, and most importantly, every mobile device is considered to have these features as most critical, because if these are compromised, that can lead to different attacks. Messages system, which has OTPs, your password reset code. Sometimes people also share passwords. The microphones, the contacts are there. The camera is there, gallery is there, and location. If these are compromised, if microphone is controlled by an app, malicious app in your mobile, it can start listening your conversation that is happening at your private space. It can start listening the conversation if at all you're sharing passwords with somebody else, or the oral communication. If the camera is controlled by a malicious app, it can take snippets, photographs of your environments, your room, your house, and all. Location can be tracked. If somebody can monitor you, understand where you're going, what time you're coming in, going in, and plan different types of attacks. So these are very critical features in your mobile. And thus it is important for us to know how much of these features are secured. How do we know that? Just go to your mobile and monitor the permissions. Go to the settings, apps. There, if you see, all your mobile device apps are listed. Just select one of the app over there. The other mode is from the same settings. You can also go to permissions and see different permissions over here. So here what I'm trying to say is, go to one of the mobile app, and inside that, if you choose one of the app, you will have a list of all of these statistics about the app. One among that is permissions. It talks about what permissions does that particular app has. For example, I have chosen Airtel. Airtel is having permissions of contacts, location, SMS, storage, and telephone. And denied permissions are camera and microphone. Actually, by default, they are all enabled. We have to go there and deny. Otherwise, they are all allowed every time. So camera, as I said, camera and microphone are critical features. If those features are also allowed by the app, it means that that app is having control about it. However, SMS, location, contacts, these three are also critical. This app is having control on these things. So these are denied here. you can actually select an location. You can choose allow only while using the app, or you have to allow all the time. Prefer using only the while using the app, so that in an other timings, this particular permission is not utilized. Similarly, at one go, going into the permission management, just go to SMS and see how many apps are having control on your SMS. Similarly, select microphone. One, I'm showing the two methods to see the permissions. First method was each app, what permissions it is taking. The other way around is, I know what are my critical permissions in my system. For those, which apps are actually accessing these things, that you can do from the permission manager. So I'm just coming to the SMS and saying in my mobile device, these many mobile apps are controlling or having control or access to the messages. So among these mobile apps, any one of the app is malicious, then all your OTPs, passwords, whatever is there in your inbox of messages can be misused. So go back to your mobile devices, look how many apps are controlling your mobile device, how many apps have access to the SMS, how many apps have access to your microphone every time, how many of them have access to your cameras every time. In case your device has gamings, in case they have online shopping kind of apps, definitely they would have complete permissions. Please go and revoke those permissions and keep monitoring them. It's not that today you change the permission, tomorrow it will be there. Have a practice regularly to see what permissions are used by which, because every time there is an update coming from an app, the permissions changes. So we need to make sure and monitor those permissions are proper. So remove those permissions and make sure that the things happen securely in the systems. One warning that I can you can look into is, for example, you're doing a shopping on your performing a financial transaction while doing shopping on the mobile device. There is a page where OTP is asked. I think I have a screen. Yeah. There is a page which is asking for you to enter OTP. So by the time you get a OTP on your message box, you read it and fill, OTP also gets automatically filled and processed. If that's happening in your system or a device, it means that in your mobile, this app is having control of automatically reading your SMS, which is very, very dangerous. If you see the screen, the bottom gray box is the pop-up coming from an external app. The white color content, what you're seeing, is actually my genuine one. If the OTP is entered here and approved, the moment I do this, PayUBiz is getting the complete control on your mobile SMS, and it will be able to automatically read your OTPs. So the warning sign is, if OTP is filled automatically by your application while performing any transaction, it means that the app is having permissions to read your SMS automatically. If in your browser, without entering your credentials, you're able to see in the logged in state, it means they are all saved in your systems. In spite of turning off location, Bluetooth, every time you are accessing, automatically Bluetooth and locations are turning on, for example. It means there is some app is there in your device which is trying to control them and making them on every time. So monitor them, to remove those apps which are trying to forcefully turn in these kind of things automatically. Make sure the mobile device is secured enough. If not, there are so many multiple attacks that can happen on the mobile devices. So make malicious phishing apps and all, we should be very careful enough that we do not download from the fake websites and all. Whenever you want to download any app, make sure you go for a genuine. For example, you want to install you got an ICICI credit card, and credit card says download the ICICI iMobile app. Don't just go to the Play Store and search for ICICI iMobile app. Rather, go to ICICI website. There you search for the iMobile app link. From there, you should be redirected to the Play Store. That will help you taking to the right location rather than searching in the Google or Play Store. Because searching in Google Play Store will result you more than 10 to 15 apps. Choosing the genuine app from that is very challenging for you. But selecting that app from a genuine website will take you to the right website or a right app so that your system does not get compromised. And always monitor how many unused apps are there in your system. Okay, just go to your settings. In the settings, you'll have an option to see whether any unused apps are there. If so, try to remove them because they are unnecessarily reading out your system contents. Make sure this mobile device software is up to date. And this is a recap of whatever we just now discussed. Regularly monitor permissions, avoid installing apps from unknown things which has advertisements and all we should avoid. Genuine links should be followed. These are all, if practiced, are made as a hygiene practices. Whatever transactions you're doing, to an extent, we can say that they are going in a safe mode and in a safe environment. Failing which can lead to different attacks. So these are certain tips for your daily practice, which we discussed so far. And with this, we are all talking about one side. One side is, till now what I was explaining you as an end user. You are utilizing the services provided in the cyber world and trying to perform financial transactions and all these things. And this website gives a lot of information about all of these practices that we discussed so far. It is infosecawareness.in. Now, let's put yourself into the other side. You are the one who is developing the application. You are the one who is handling these applications. You are developing a website, could be for online website or doing an internet banking thing from financial solution. If you are the one, how will you stop your site from having all of these attacks? Let us see from that aspect. For that to help you, you have to skill yourself. And for that, NISM has launched a course, certificate course on cybersecurity foundation in association with CDAC, ICIA.gov.in, CS CertFin. It is supported by Cert India. This course is designed in such a way that from a developer's point of view, from an end user point of view, and from a user who is hosting or managing the financial activities, for all of these end users, the course content is well designed. For example, let me give you a glimpse. Most of the web attacks are happening over the web. Most of the attacks are web attacks. There are so many applications hosted, so many networks are hosting all these things. Rather than attacking on a firewall, routers or something, people are targeting applications because application is easy. I'm able to access them in the browser. For example, web attacks are easily targeted. Usually they are successful. If you see this screen, the right side, whatever I have listed, data breach, phishing, tab napping, privilege escalation, compromise of credentials, all of these are the attacks that I was talking till now, which are from the user's point of view. But if you start analyzing why this attack is happening, the root cause is there is a problem in the application or in the hosting environment. There is a vulnerability in that, due to which this attack has happened. So if you put yourself on the other side of the game, one side is I'm using the cyber world, I'm following the cyber hygiene practices to protect myself. Now, I am the developer who is developing these applications. I am developer of Facebook. I am developer of Twitter. I am the developer of internet banking site. Then what should I do so that these attacks doesn't occur to my users, to my customers? If an SBI banking customer is attacked with a phishing, there is some problem at the SBI also. It's not only at the end users. I'm just giving an example of SBI. It doesn't mean SBI. SBI is the most famous banking. That is the reason I'm referring it. Similarly, if I'm using a Facebook, if Facebook credentials are being hacked, it's not the user's only problem. Maybe he's using an outdated version of operating system, because of which the attack might have happened. But it is equally important for Facebook also to stop that attack happening at that particular time, so that information or that user's data is not logged. So every attack that we just now discussed, where cyber hygiene practices we are talking that end users should have, we have to follow them to make sure our data is secure. But as a developer, as a hosting environment, it is equally important that we ensure that the attacks that I have listed in the left side doesn't occur in my system, which can lead to these attacks. An SQL injection leads to a data breach. An iframe injection leads to a phishing attack, successful phishing or a tab napping attacks. A cross-site scripting attacks successfully allows somebody to redirect to a phishing website. A cross-site request forgery attack allows somebody to perform privilege escalations, compromise of credentials, doing an unauthenticated transactions kind of a thing. So every technical vulnerability of a web application results into a web attack that can affect an end user's data or a customer's data. So you being into the financial sector, developing applications or managing applications, it is important for you to understand these concepts. And that's where the course that I was referring to helps you. So the real scenario is We are trying to protect everything at the network level. However, attacks still come through the same port which is open for public, and the attacks leads to application to service to operating system, and well, they affect the database also. So this course, which is offered by NISM, has 4 modules, and it is covering excellently all of the basic topics that one has to understand as a basic knowledge. If you want to implement a best security, first our foundation should be strong enough. If a foundation is not strong, you won't be able to understand the advanced concepts. So this coverage is giving a very good foundation for covering in 4 different aspects. As you see, first module talks about the cybersecurity basics. That's very important to understand the concepts. What are the 6 pillars of cybersecurity? Or what are the 6 major controls of cryptography? If I asked you, what will be your answer? Many of you might have heard about CIA, confidentiality, integrity, availability. But how will you ensure these 3? How will you ensure confidentiality? How will you ensure integrity, availability? How do you ensure a non-repudiation? All of these are covered in the first module, talking about the pillars, the security models that one has to follow. If you're developing an application, you should think about how you will maintain the confidentiality of the end user's data, how you will maintain the integrity of the data that is being stored in the systems, how would you maintain the availability that the system, nobody should perform a DOS attack on my machine, what I should do to protect that system from DOS. All of these fundamental concepts are covered very well on the module 1. The module 2 helps you understand the policies, procedures, how I have to define a best policy for my for the system, what kind of procedures I should implement to ensure the secure environment, how do I have to manage risk for the systems, how do I do threat modeling for my application if I'm developing. These concepts are basics, fundamental points are covered under the module 2. At the module 3, you have a deep explanation on the concepts, technical concept. This is where he's talking more technically on how you can securely maintain your systems components and all, hardening of the systems, even I think secure software development lifecycle, secure coding practices also are covered a little bit in this particular module. And the last module talks about the audit. How much ever we do security in place and these things, there should definitely be some party to verify, assess, and see whether you are up to the mark or not. And this is what this module covers upon, how you can verify that. How can you review your code? How can you review your network systems? What kind of threats can come? How you have to understand what threats are posed to my systems? What should I do if an incident is happening? What are the emerging technologies? These are the fundamentals that one has to understand if you are managing the financial based systems and applications. So in this way, this particular course is covering these 4 modules, fundamental concepts, which will be very useful. Either you put yourself on the other side of the goal, where you are utilizing the financial security, cyber resources to perform various financial activities, or if you are developing or managing also. Both the ways, this course covers most of the fundamental concepts, and I'm sure on doing this course, you will be achieving good skills and making yourself secured enough in maintaining your financial activities. So with this, I conclude my session. You ensure cyber hygiene practices for using and for contributing. So that is the 2 angles that we were discussing. And remember, share every information that you learn, every cyber hygiene practice with your family and friends. That's most important in today's cyber world. So I hope I try to cover the things. In case you have any questions, I'm open to the questions now, ma'am.
Sure, ma'am. It was a very enriching session. And the last line, stole the show that whenever we hear anything related to cybersecurity, we should share it with our family and friends indeed. So yes, sharing is caring in this case. We should indeed share everything, like any cybersecurity information that we get, and we should share it with our family and friends. Ma'am, the questions will be visible to me via chatbot. Currently, I don't have any questions right now in my chatbot. Okay. So we can wait for 5 more minutes. And if in case we have any questions,
sure, madam,
you are the best person to address those. Otherwise, then we can, end the session on a good note. Let's just wait for 5 more minutes for the questions.
Sure, madam. Sure.
Participants, if you have any questions regarding the cybersecurity, or you might, if you have faced any such incident in your own life where identified the cybersecurity threat or how you dealt with it. If in case you have any such story to share, then also you can type a message and we can, do the certain settings for you to speak. Or you can share it on the chatbot with everyone. So it's up to the participants now. So, ma'am, I have one really interesting question, and I would like to address it to you. I believe this happens with almost each one of us, but we, generally tend to ignore it. So sometimes, like we have our phone gallery, and old pictures pop up on current date. Like today, suppose it is 6th April 2023. Any picture clicked on 6th April 2019 is, which I might have deleted as well. So what the participant want to ask is the security of the phone compromised in this case?
Ma'am, your voice was breaking in between.
Sure. Ma'am, I can repeat the question.
Can you repeat the first sentence?
Sure. Ma'am, am I audible properly?
Yes, now it is.
Okay, so the question says that like sometimes on a particular date, some old pictures pops up. So let's say today is 6th April 2023, and some pictures that were clicked on 6th April 2019, they have popped up on my phone. Like I was using my phone and they popped up. So this has happened. I have deleted those pictures, but still those 3 or 4-year-old picture that is clicked on the same day is popping up as a memory.
Ma'am, I think I got your question.
Sure, ma'am. Over to you then.
Yeah. Hello?
Yes,
am I
ma'am.
audible?
Perfectly.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Perfectly, ma'am.
Yeah. So I believe that the from the could be the Google memory, because the photographs what you are capturing over the mobile are automatic. Even you delete your pictures in your mobile device, they are automatically getting uploaded to the Google Drive. Go back of your entire pictures with the dates, with the location, and all of this information. That is the reason Google is giving you a memory that it has been. So the straight question for your point is, your mobile is compromised or not? It is not that mobile is compromised if the message is coming from the Google Photos. But the care that has to be taken over here is, do you really want to push your photographs to Google Photos? If no, turn off the sync immediately, so that from now onwards, at least the photographs do not go to the drive. Because irrespective of the photograph, it is a private photo, it is having some confidential information, or any picture you took. So if you are utilizing a photograph capturing for any such sensitive data, turn it off, turn the sync. It's been deleted from the Google's database completely. To you, it will be visible that it is deleted. You won't be able to further access, but for somebody else, it may be accessible, but we don't know.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. I hope the query is clear to the participant as well. I hope I'm audible to you, madam, because your voice is a little bit breaking in between.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible to me.
Perfect, perfect. So thank you so much, ma'am. Currently, I don't have any further questions in my chatbot, and this brings us in the session. And let me tell you one thing very frankly, this is one of the best webinars that we have conducted till yet, and the most informative one. And yes, it was really our pleasure to have you here, to meet you and to greet you, and to have such a bundle of knowledge
Some
related
bandwidth issues
to
there.
security. It's just indeed our pleasure, ma'am.
Some bandwidth issues there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much.